Parmida Barez, author, speaker, activist. Parmida, good morning. Glad you could be with us.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
The Iranian Attorney General is saying that the morality police have been abolished, but we have not heard that directly from the police or the government. What do you believe is happening here?
This regime is in a desperate situation. The Iranian people will not back down from their demand for regime change. And how timely and expected for that sort of propaganda to have been released a day before national-wide strikes were to ensue, which is now underway, and a few days before the UN is about to hold a vote to expel the Islamic Republic of Iran from the UN Women's Rights Commission, and just after the UN special session resolution passed, which launched the first investigative mission into the Islamic Republic's heinous crimes. Us Iranians know very well that this Islamic Republic in Iran is well versed in deception, confusion, division, and they're pathological liars, especially when their backs are up against a wall. So the unified front of this revolution is extremely threatening to the Islamic Republic, and they will do whatever they can to quell the uprising, quell the protests, silence the people, and divert international community's attentions. And I implore the West to cease using their Western democratic thinking caps when analyzing and interpreting the Islamic Republic's murderous, theocratic, corrupt dictatorship, which at this point has already killed 500 people in the last 3 months, including 60 children. They've detained 18,000 plus protesters who are currently undergoing the most brutal sexual, physical, and psychological torture imaginable while they're waiting potential death sentences, and they've already begun executions. This is what we should be reporting on, not some off-the-cuff remark. And that's already been debunked by the actual media of Iran. And in fact, what's even worse is that it's actually been circulating that they're potentially shifting to advanced facial recognition instead of this patrol system. So if anything, they're just they're upgrading their terror system. We've already seen photographs being taken of license plates, surveillance cameras. So then maybe rather than public flogging, they'll just continue to kidnap, your child in the middle of the night from their home. And so, we haven't seen a particular police program on the streets these days. You have to keep in mind the regime's hands have been a little tied with killing, detaining, raping, silencing protests.
So in other words, none of this is going to appease protesters. Do you think, where do you think the government may go with all of these protests on the street? Do you think that there's any chance that they will back down or backtrack? I hear you that this comment was likely taken out of context. But what does the government do then with what is happening on the streets?
You know what? It's now in the hands of the people. It's a combination of international pressure, strikes from the inside, which have already started today, protests, us continuing to post the truth, amplify the true voices of Iranians, spread footage and news, urging governments to not only impose sanctions, but to apply and enforce those sanctions, freeze assets of IRGC members and their affiliates, expel those diplomats, ambassadors, and put them in a situation where they have no choice but to be isolated and raise their arms. And they will be held accountable, every single one of them, for their heinous crimes.
Could you ever see the hijab laws going under review by officials? What are your thoughts on that?
You have to keep in mind that those laws are the fundamental piece of the Islamic theocracy. And the supreme leader is the one who calls the shots. And the only shots the supreme leader has ever called is for death sentences and killing. So no, this is the power that they're holding on to. And again, this is far, far past the hijab laws at this point. The Iranian people have been in a physically, sexually, psychologically, financially, and spiritually abusive relationship with their country's corrupt government for over 44 years. And they've been trying to escape this for 44 years. Thousands of children have been killed, raped, tortured, beaten over the years. And at this moment in history, Iranians are trying their hardest, harder than ever, to end this regime and alter the international community's perceptions through videos, chants, protests, acts of defiance, screaming, walking into bullets. If you ever think that all of these brave Iranians are facing bullets for a change in dress code law, you have to be gravely mistaken or uneducated, anyone who would think that.
Parmida Barez, will leave it there for today. Parmida is an author, a speaker, and an activist. Thank you.